This conference will now be recorded.
So, hello everyone, very good evening, and thank you for joining our day one class today. I'm sharing my screen. Can one of you please quickly confirm if the screen share is visible?
Visible, Kiran.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the acknowledgement. So, thank you for waiting also. We'll quickly get started with chapter one right away without further waiting. So, today we will talk about what are APIs and where exactly APIs are used in enterprise applications, and also some example around the data description formats as well. And then we will see, based on the time, we will see if we can start about client and server architecture as well. So right now I will be writing the notes somewhere in my spreadsheet, but later I will be converting this into a Google document and I'll be sharing my notes via the Google Drive. So for now, I'll make some rough notes. I'll also try to increase the font size so that everyone can see it better. Yeah. So what is an API, right? So let me tell you what is the full form, what is the definition, and diagrammatically I will try to explain what exactly is an API. So API actually stands for application programming interface. That is the abbreviation we have for APIs. And coming to the process of understanding what exactly is an API, I can say an API an API is a moderator, or an API is a coordinator between multiple modules in an enterprise application. So I will say an API acts as a coordinator between multiple modules in an enterprise application. So enterprise application is nothing but your software, and every software has got multiple modules, and all these modules, they are dependent on each other, so they might have to communicate with each other, like passing the data, receiving the data. So to pass the data and receive the data, they need an interface, and that interface is nothing but this coordinator application called as an API. Okay, another definition I can also give is, I will also explain the definitions with the help of a diagram, so just be with me for some more time. Another definition is, an API acts as a facilitator between a producer application and a consumer application. Okay, or I can call it as module. Anything is okay. So let it be application. So another way how I can also explain APIs is, it is acting as a coordinator or as a facilitator between any two applications. One of the application is producing the data, another application is consuming the data. So to make the second definition little clear to you, if I take our regular life example, let's say now we are having class at 9 o'clock in the evening. One of you might not be having your dinner to join this demonstration class. But let's say after the class is completed, you might be feeling hungry and you may not be having time to prepare food. So what will we do? We'll probably think of ordering food on Swiggy or on Zomato, right? So let's say it is me only who is ordering the food. So what will I do? So Kiran is the person who will say, okay, let me order some food from Swiggy. Okay, meaning from a nearby restaurant, right? And this order goes to a restaurant, some nearby restaurant at my hotel. This order is received. And someone has to go and bring this order, right? Because I'm using a third party app called Swiggy. I'm not going to the restaurant, so I need someone to help me with the pickup process. So in between you have the Swiggy delivery boy. This guy is facilitating, or this guy is coordinating the order, the food order process, right? He will receive my order, he will go to the restaurant, he will pick the order, he will come to my home, he will hand over the food to me, right? So here if you see, Kiran is ordering the food from the restaurant, and the nearby restaurant which received my order, they are preparing the food, right? So these guys are preparing the food. Since they are preparing the food, we call them as producer application because they are producing food. And someone is going to eat it, right? When someone prepares food, someone will buy and someone will eat it. So in this case, Kiran is eating it. So Kiran is the consumer, or Kiran is the consumer application. So between this consumer application called as Kiran and producer application called as restaurant, we have someone coordinating the delivery process. So that guy is nothing but your Swiggy guy. Here we call him as an API. So this guy is called as an API application. So between Kiran and restaurant, we have Swiggy, which means between a consumer application and between a producer application, we have a coordinator application called as API application called the Swiggy boy. So this example is a clear-cut definition what I have written here. An API acts as a facilitator between a producer application and a consumer application. So what is a producer application? Any application that is producing data dynamically. Continuously the application is producing lot of content, and some other application is receiving it. So that application is called as consumer application. So the producer application is producing the data, the consumer application is receiving the data. So how can they produce and how can someone else receive it? They need someone in between. That someone is the facilitator here, which is nothing but our API application. So API will go and take the data from producer application and give it to consumer application. So that's the way you can think of as an API. Let me give one more definition diagrammatically. Again, this one, an API acts as a coordinator between multiple modules in an enterprise application to facilitate the data transfer process. So APIs are used to transfer the data from one module to another module. So let's see that in the form of a diagram. So let me take a simple application like any e-commerce application. Let's say this is my e-commerce application, and let's say this is https://www.amazon.in, and let me say this application has got few modules: module 1, module 2, module 3, module 4. Okay, I'm just sticking to 4 modules right now. And let's say the first module we have is a login module. Then you have a logout module. Then you have add items to shopping cart module, and then you have make payment module. So these are the 4 modules we have for this Amazon application for our reference purpose. So now we need to talk about whether these modules are independent of each other or they dependent of each other, right? So let's write something called as the dependency matrix. So I'm going to write here something called a dependency matrix. So you guys, one of you please answer me. Is the login module and logout module, are they dependent of each other or are they independent of each other?
Dependent.
The login modules are dependent of each other, which means without login, no user can log out, right? That's a simple logic. So I will say login and logout, they are dependent. Okay. Since they are dependent, I'll just put it in some red color. Then second question, um, login module and add items to shopping cart, are they independent or you think they are dependent?
Dependent.
Dependent. So which means without login, we cannot add items to shopping cart. Is that what you mean?
No, if we are adding
We
items to
can
the
add.
shopping cart, they will get added to that particular profile.
Okay, so if I open amazon.in, so you can check on the browser. If I open amazon.in, right now I'm not logged in. You see, it still says sign in, which means I'm not logged in. I'll go to one of these products, and you see I'm still not signed in. And if I click on add to cart, you see added to shopping cart. Okay, and if you see here, I'm still not signed in, but my shopping cart has one item. So what I'm trying to say is add items to shopping cart is independent of login module. Right now, the e-commerce applications, they don't force you to log in to add items to shopping cart. So I'll say login and add items to shopping cart. They are independent. I'll put it in some green color. Third question, make a payment and login. Are they independent of each other or dependent of each other?
They are dependent
Each
on each
other.
other. Yeah.
They are
Once we
dependent.
Depending on each
Correct.
other.
They are dependent of each other, meaning without login, you cannot make a payment for sure in Amazon website or Flipkart website. Because once you log in, only then your default delivery address and what is your balance in the wallet, or maybe you have some extra coupons that can be reused, or maybe you're a privileged customer, so you might get some discounts. So all that information can be retrieved only if you are logged in. So I will say login and make payment modules are dependent on each other. So let's put it in some red color for dependency. Then last question, make a payment and add items to shopping cart. Are they dependent or independent? Make a payment and add items to shopping cart. Are they dependent or independent?
Independent?
Independent, which means
Dependent.
without dependent. Okay, so the answer is they are dependent, because you cannot make a payment if add items to shopping cart is empty, right? Have you ever paid payments in Amazon, Myntra, or in a physical shop without purchasing anything, without putting items in the shopping cart? No, right? Minimum one item has to be there. So they are dependent modules. Okay, without items in the shopping cart cannot happen. So they are dependent. So this is called as a dependency diagram we have written. Now, why did I write it? You will come to know. So what happens is in Amazon.in application, let's say Kiran has logged in and he browsed something. After some time, he wanted to log out. So when he clicked on log out, we already know that log out and login are dependent on each other. So when Kiran clicks on log out button, the developer might have written some logic in the application that when the user clicks on logout, since it is dependent on login module, logout will send a request. Okay, it will send a request to the login module and says, hey, the current user wanted to log out. Can you please check if he is logged in or he has logged out? So immediately what will happen is the login module will check its database and finds out whether the current user is logged in or he is not yet logged in. So after some milliseconds, the login module will give back a response to the logout module. Why it is giving a response? Because they are dependent on each other. So they should communicate. So it is going to give some response. And the response can be something like, yes, Kiran is logged in, or Kiran is not logged in, Kiran session is valid, Kiran session is not valid. So some information like that will come from login module to logout module. So here you see the login and logout are communicating with each other. They're exchanging request and receiving a response. Similarly, let's say after some time, Kiran has logged in and he clicked on make a payment. Okay, but make a payment module is dependent on login. So make a payment will send a request to login module and says, hey, the current user wanted to initiate a payment. Please check if the user is logged in. So the login module will check the database and gives back a response to the make a payment module. And the response can be like, yes, Kiran is logged in, or no, Kiran is not logged in. So you see login and make a payment modules are also talking to each other. And after some time, let's say Kiran, not after some time, after this is completed, make a payment module, it is also dependent on add items to shopping cart. So another request will be sent automatically by a make a payment module to add items to shopping cart. And add items to shopping cart will check the database to figure out whether any items are added by Kiran in the basket. And then we get back a response from add items to shopping cart to make a payment module. So again, if you see, there is a request going from make a payment to add items to shopping cart module, and there is a response coming from add items to shopping cart module to make a payment. So you see all these modules are talking to each other, right? So I can also write here, there is a request sent and there is a response received. Similarly, here also you see there is a request sent and there is a response received. So in this diagram, if you carefully observe, there is a heavy traffic happening across all the 4 modules. You see a very, kind of outer ring road visualization you are seeing, where a lot of modules are communicating with each other, lot of requests are going, lot of responses are coming. So data exchange is happening. The question is, how are the modules able to communicate with each other? Obviously, we will say by sending a request and receiving a response. But the question is, how are they able to send a request? How are they able to send a response? The answer is they all use an underlying technology. So they use a new technology, and that technology they use is nothing but API. So API is the technology all these modules are using to communicate by sending requests and responses. Now you go back and check my definition. An API acts as a coordinator between multiple modules. So here you see between multiple modules, the APIs are acting as coordinator, and these modules are present in an enterprise application. These modules are present inside Amazon.in application, which is enterprise application. And what does that API is doing? It is facilitating the data transfer process. You see here, it is sending the request, receiving the response, sending the request, receiving the response, nothing but a data transfer in the form of sending a request and getting a response. So this diagram is an evidence to this particular definition. So if you take any application in the world, that application has got so many modules, and all the modules will have some dependencies, and all the dependency modules will talk to each other. So to talk to each other, they need an application support. That application support is nothing but APIs. So APIs will help to transfer the data from one place to another place in a software. Okay, is the definition clear, guys? And similarly, if you want to know, see here, make a payment is sending a request to login, and login is giving a response. So all the applications that are giving responses, so I can say the request sending application is the consumer application, and the application that is giving me responses, they are called as producer applications. So if you compare this also, even this definition also should be clear to you. An API is acting as a facilitator between producer application and a consumer application. So is this clear to all of you guys? What is the definition of an API? With the help of a diagram, I tried to make it clear. Any questions from anyone? Guys, please acknowledge. No silence, please. You have to acknowledge. If you have questions, tell me. If no questions, tell me.
Till now it is clear, Kiran.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So let's go to the next point in the same definition. So I said this APIs are sending the request and receiving the responses between multiple modules. The question is in which language the request is going to the module and in which language the response is coming from the other module. Like the request and response, it is written in which format. So what is the data description format these modules are using? So that I'm going to answer now. So data descriptive formats. Data descriptive formats means the language in which these APIs are talking to each other. So there are so many ways in which APIs are communicating the data between modules. Initially, the industry used HTML format. So probably 20 years before, the APIs are sending the request and receiving the responses in, okay, before HTML format, we have text format. So initially the industry used text format, the normal text format to send the data from one module to another module. But the text format was not that great in terms of security. So text format became outdated. So I'll call it as outdated. And later the industry started using HTML format to transfer the data from one module to another module. Later even this HTML format of transferring the data became outdated. Then the industry used XML format, and XML format is today 90% outdated but 10% being used. Later, after XML format is outdated, then the industry used JSON format, which is being used 100% today. So JSON format is the one the industry is currently using. I'll talk about all these formats now, so don't worry. XML format is 90% outdated. So these are the formats in which the APIs were sending the data from one module to another module. Okay, so initially the industry used text format, but today text format is outdated. Then we have HTML format, which is also 100% outdated. Then we had XML format, which is 90% outdated today in the market. Then we have JSON format, which is currently being used. So let me write here so that you understand what I'm trying to say. So APIs exchange the data between producer application and consumer application using one of the below data descriptive languages. So we have text format, then we have HTML, then we have XML, then we have JSON format. So text format, like I said, it is 100% outdated today. HTML is also 100% outdated, whereas XML format is 90% outdated and only 10% of the organizations are using it. And coming to JSON format, it is being used by almost everyone. 100% is the usage. Okay, so these two things are completely outdated. No developer would recommend us to use HTML and text. And JSON format is being used very, popularly JSON format is used. Now the question is, how do I recognize HTML format, XML format, and JSON format? So I'll show you some simple examples. We don't have to be a developer now to understand the formats, but looking at the syntax, you should be able to understand how HTML looks, how XML looks, and how JSON looks. So I'll give some examples here, guys. Example formats, I'm writing it. So I will write a sample HTML code, how it looks like. HTML code always starts with the tag HTML and it ends with HTML tag. So anything that has a forward slash is an ending tag, and in between we can write anything. Let's say I wanted to send a paragraph, and let's say here we wanted to send a message like, is the user logged in? So if the module, let's say this module, which is make a payment, it is sending a request to login, and the message it is sending to login is the user Kiran logged in? And if it is going in HTML format, you will see the code like this given by the developer. So the moment you see the tag HTML, you can clearly understand that this is represented in HTML format. Okay, I'll put it in red color because this format is outdated. And if I have to show you the XML format, here in the place of HTML, you will see the word XML, and some additional tags you will see like envelope, and every tag that you have opened will be closed. Okay, and here you will have something like message. So again, if the message is the user logged in, and if the producer application or consumer application are talking to each other in XML format, you will see the code like this going from one module to another module. So if you see the word XML in the example process, please understand it is the XML format which the developer has used to transfer the data from producer application to consumer or consumer application to producer. And this format is also outdated. Sorry, is someone saying anything? Rahul, are you talking to me?
No, sir.
Okay, please be on mute. Yeah, so let me show you JSON format now, the one that's recommended by the industry. So coming to JSON format, so few points about JSON is, JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. That is the full form for JSON. And JSON uses key value pair structure. So JSON uses something called key and value pair structure, and the syntax of a JSON will be like this. It starts with a flower bracket and it ends with a flower bracket, and in between you have double quotations where you have a key and then a colon as a separator, and then a double quotation you have value. So this is what I meant by key and value pair structure. Okay, so you see there is a key and there is a value, and if there is one more key and one more value, we write a comma and we write it. And if you have one more key and a value, again you write a comma and you paste it. So like this you can write many number of keys and many number of values. So right now I have written 4 keys and 4 values, and every key and value should be separated by a comma. So this is the format or syntax of a JSON. And if I have to give an example, so I'll say example JSON. So I will write something like trainer name is the key and the value is Kiran, because I am the trainer, my name is Kiran. So I'm writing trainer name. So trainer name is the key and the value of trainer name is Kiran. So I'm writing here, then comma, and course name. What is the course I'm teaching? API automation testing. So I can write that here as the value. And what is the tool I'm using? So tool I will say, and the tool I'm using is Postman. And let's say we talk about the duration of the course. So the duration of the course is like some 28 hours. So like this you can write any key and the respective value associated with that. Okay, so this is how a JSON format looks like. And by looking at the format, the test engineer should be able to clearly identify whether he is working with HTML format or XML format or JSON format. Most of the times we work with the JSON format only. Very rarely you might work with XML format. Okay, so these are the data descriptive formats that we have in the industry. Okay, any questions to me, guys, until this point?
No, Kiran.
Yeah. So what we did is we just discussed about chapter 1, the first 2 points. What are APIs and what are the data description formats? So now let me tell you what is the importance of these APIs. Like, why are we talking even about APIs? Why should you enroll in this course? So let me tell you, 90% of the applications today that you see on the smartphone, or 90% of the applications that you see on the internet, they all make use of APIs. Hardly there will be an application which does not use an API, which means in any organization, API development will always be there, API testing will always be there, because all the modern applications that are getting developed, they make use of APIs, which means there is an extensive need for API developers and API test engineers. To give an example of applications that are using APIs, I guess if you open your smartphone, whatever app you see, they're all using APIs. So example, if I talk about, maybe I'll write it down, you can see. So examples here. So the examples that I can talk about will be, yeah, so examples of applications that uses APIs, right? So the list is never ending, but let me try to write few. We all have the taxi related apps, right? So Ola, Uber, Rapido, they all make use of APIs. So what APIs are they using? They are using the geolocation APIs, which are provided by the operating system such as Android or iOS. Not only geolocation APIs, they're also using APIs related to payment, like the payment that you make by using Google Pay, WhatsApp Pay, or Phone Pay, or by using Ola Money, Uber Money, or Rapido Wallet, whatever. They're all payment related APIs, so they all use these things. Next example I can say is Swiggy, Zomato, and any other similar apps that we use for making payments, right? So this is also using geolocation APIs and the payment related APIs. Okay, I'm talking about the APIs which you understand. Apart from this, there are so many other APIs these applications will use. Then we have Book My Show, which is using APIs to identify which seats are available in a particular shopping mall, in a particular multiplex theater, on a particular date for a particular show. Then you have Make My Trip, which you use for booking your flights, for booking your bus tickets, for booking your train tickets, for booking your vacations, for booking your hotels. They all make use of APIs again. Okay. Then if I talk about the social media applications like WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, etc., they all make use of APIs. Gmail, Outlook, they all make use of APIs. Without APIs, they cannot even work. Then what else? What are the other applications that we generally use? Yeah, maybe if I talk about the payment apps like Google Pay, Phone Pay, Paytm, etc., they all make use of APIs. So like this, if I have to write, the list will be never ending. All the applications that you have on your smartphone, I can say 95% of the mobile apps that you use or I use, they all make use of APIs. So without APIs, there is no Ola. Without APIs, there is no Uber. There is no Zomato. There is no Swiggy. There is no Book My Show. Which means I have to go to the theater, stand in the line, book a ticket, and then watch a movie. And if I have to go on a vacation, I have to go to a nearby store or a shop, find an agent, talk to him, get some discounts, and then plan my vacation. And if I have to make a payment, I have to go to the bank and then deposit the money so that they can make a payment to my friend or to whomever I have to supply. But today, with the convenience of Google Pay, Phone Pay, you are able to remotely transfer money in just few seconds, right? And you are able to book your auto, rickshaw, or Ola, I mean cab, or a bike by sitting anywhere in the world, right? You can sit at your home and book a taxi. You can sit somewhere on the road and then book a taxi. So all this convenience is there, of course, with the help of a mobile app, with the help of internet. But the main crux, the main important piece that is there is APIs. So APIs only are helping you or me to enjoy the comfort and the convenience that we are all enjoying today. Without APIs, all these apps would have been zero and they would not have existed. And we all would had lot of technical challenges in booking food online, or booking a movie tickets online, or planning your vacation, or doing things on social media, or making remote online payments, or booking taxis and auto rickshaws, etc. So without APIs, these are the difficulties we had. Hence, the importance of APIs I wanted to explain through this example. Okay. And sometimes, people are also interested to know, like, do we have some good enough jobs in the APIs, right? So I'm not continuing my chapter 2. I just took a full stop here. We will talk about client and server architecture in tomorrow's class. However, I would also talk to you about some things that you should always be knowing. Let's say you wanted to know whether uh, there are jobs for API testing, and is it necessary to go through this course, right? So let me give you some Google Analytics. So if you go to Google Trends, okay, and go to trends.google.com, here you can search for different trends that you are interested in. So example, I want to search here something. So I wanted to search for API automation testing, okay, and I'll click on the first search term, and you see immediately how people are talking about this particular term that I searched, API automation testing. So the data is available from, the last few months. Okay, you see here it's available. 12 months data is shown, or you can just change it to past 90 days. So in the last 90 days, how is the term API automation testing is referred? So this is the graphical thing. So from May 29, the data is shown to you. 75% of the people are talking about automation testing in on May 29th, and 86% of the people are talking about API automation testing in June. So the graph is like, fluctuating up and down based on how people are talking about. And if you want to compare it with anything else like manual testing, and let's use search term. So a comparison diagram will be drawn, and this is how people are communicating about API testing and manual testing. Of course, people are talking a lot about manual testing, probably because freshers are coming out and they are talking about manual testing courses, and the experienced folks are talking about this API automation testing. So Google Trends will give you some clarity also. And if you scroll down how the people are talking about those terms in which states and which cities, you can see the diagram here. Okay, you can see a lot of information here. And let's say instead of search term, I wanted to talk about API automation testing and Postman tool. And you can see how people are talking about. See, the word API automation testing and Postman tool, they are synonymous. That's why whoever is talking about API automation testing, they're also talking about Postman tool, right? So you see the graph, how it is talking about. And here you can search for anything, like this is Google Trends. So Google is giving all these job answers. So I'll say API automation jobs, and here if you want, you can search for Postman tool jobs. Let me remove this. Let me show last 12 months. So this is how the information that Google is able to get. Okay, it needs some refreshment anyways, otherwise you can change it to worldwide. Based on the filter you apply, you will see it. Okay, this may not be 100% accurate, guys, so don't take it very seriously. This is something what people are searching in google.com. Okay, in the Google search only it is telling you. People need not search for jobs in Google only, right? They go to naukri.com, they go to LinkedIn, they go to Twitter, they go to some freshers website, they go to direct company website. So everything is different, but this is some rough analysis how you will get. Okay, so Google Trends also will help you to understand any information related to what you want in life. I just took an example of APIs, and you see here. If you want, here you can search for anything like REST APIs. And you see people are talking about APIs. Everywhere people are talking about APIs. That's why you see the graph here. This is worldwide. I can change it to just India. And this is how the people are talking in India. See, the graph went almost up. So like 94% of the people are talking here. 100% people are talking about REST APIs, meaning they're talking about REST APIs. Why are they talking about? Maybe for jobs, maybe for courses, or maybe they are hunting for some information online. Anywhere, if the search term contains the word REST or APIs, this is how people are talking about. So this is the percentage distribution they have given. So you can search for anything that you want here in Google Trends. Okay. So all I wanted to tell is the world of API testing is very much important, because all the apps that are getting developed these days, 95% of them depends on APIs. Without APIs, no app, no business, no future for that particular app. Since the API's development is mandatory for all the applications, API testers are also necessary for organizations. And APIs are getting developed not in one or two. Each product that the companies are developing, they are having hundreds of APIs. So they are looking for professionals who can test those hundreds of APIs. And these APIs need automation as well for faster results, because manual testing will take a lot of time. So they need some tool in place which can automate the process of testing APIs and provide reports very quickly. That's where Postman tool comes into picture to help the test engineers. Okay, so manual testing, the way manual testing is a default skill set, API automation testing and API testing also has become a default skill set. It is no longer an additional skill. It is a minimum skill an experienced test engineer should have. Okay, if I go to the market and say I'm a manual testing professional with 5 years experience, I don't get the preference in the job market. But when I say I also do automation testing of APIs along with manual testing and I have 5 years experience, my profile gets the weightage, because that is a default expectation for every recruiter, for every test lead, for every test manager, for every customer and client. Okay, and that's where the point comes down, that learning automation testing using any tool in the market is definitely a mandatory skill. And we are picking Postman tool in this particular batch because Postman is often regarded as father of all the automation testing tools for APIs. Okay, so that's all I have for today's class, guys. We discussed few basic things about what are APIs, the definition of an API from a diagrammatical perspective, and how the data is transferred from one module to another module. That's where I spoke a little bit about JSON. We will talk a lot about all these things in the upcoming classes. Everywhere we will go very, very depth. In the initial classes, only few highlights you will be seeing. Slowly, you will see a lot of detailed information from me. So before I sign off from today's class, do you guys have any questions? And I also request you guys to put your WhatsApp numbers in the WhatsApp group, or maybe your email address in the WhatsApp group, so that my team will send documentation to you guys. Any questions, guys, before we sign off? Please let me know.
Sir, Amrish here this side. Due to my office call, I just joined today. I just want to know how long this class will be, like how many days so we'll cover this all this course.
Sure, Amresh. Every day, the class will be for 1 hour, 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. And almost 28 classes will be there, 28 to 30, some number between there. But you can assume 30 classes, which means 30 hours is the duration of this course.
Excluding Saturday, Sunday, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, yes, excluding Saturdays and Sundays. Only Monday to Fridays we have the classes.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Sir, I want to ask one question.
Yes.
Sir, are APIs used in only those applications that use the client server architecture, or are they also used in standalone applications?
So these days, every application uses client and server architecture model, meaning the client has to communicate with server. That is a default expectation for every application, which again
Yes.
brings the point that APIs are used in almost every application. So the moment you say client and server, APIs are used. And if you say standalone, what I understand by standalone is it does not talk to internet. So if you say my
Yes.
application does not talk to internet, then APIs are not necessary. I mean, APIs can also be used there also, but it is optional then. So
Okay.
wherever you hear the word client and server, APIs will be present. Wherever you hear three-tier architecture, four-tier architecture, or front end, back end, if you hear these terminologies, APIs will be there for sure.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so Pooja has a question: which tool is used for regression testing of APIs? Pooja, the answer is Postman. Whatever tool I'm teaching, that is the answer. Postman is the tool.
Hi, Kiran.
Yes.
So I want to ask you two things. First is the chapter, the syllabus, what you have shared with us yesterday, and you have mentioned like the duration, like 28 to 30 hours. So we will be able to complete everything in those duration, right? So it won't be
Yes.
like a hurry burry and closing this session, classes. It won't be like that, right?
Yes, yes. Nothing will be hurry burry. And since I have done multiple batches, the average expectation is it will go for 30 days for sure. Sometimes it can go one class extra, two classes extra also, because sometimes people ask a lot of questions, so the time will be increasing. So that way, one or two classes will increase. So at
Okay.
Isha or my side, I don't count the number of days, which means if I'm counting the days, then definitely I will stop on 30th day, right? So I don't do counting.
Yes, yes.
Sometimes
Mm.
I complete the batch in 29 days, sometimes I take 30 days, or sometimes 35 days also. There are batches where more days are also taken because participants have questions and I spend good enough time to answer those questions.
Okay, okay. This is more clear. Thank you so much. And so one more thing I wanted to ask. I don't know how I may sound. So the head count is 18 today. So the classes will be continuing from tomorrow, right? Matlab, suppose if the enrolled people are less, so the classes will be ongoing, right?
Yes, yes, that's why we have started today chapter 1. So even
Okay,
today,
okay.
so right now few people have already confirmed their joining things. Few wanted some time, like they wanted to attend class day 1, day 2 class. Based on the progress we are making, they might take some time, to enroll. But our batch has started from today only. Yesterday was day 0, today is day 1, tomorrow will be day 2. Then we have a weekend. Monday, the regular classes also will start.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, Amresh has given me a message on the chat. I read the message, Amresh. My answer is simple: yes, we are going to do in depth automation testing for the APIs that I'm going to take. And if you want more examples, I will give those examples. You guys can practice. And if you are stuck somewhere in the next class, you can share your screen and say, hey, Kiran, I'm stuck here. How should I proceed it? And then I will give an answer to that. So simple, I will say this training is practical training, no PowerPoint presentations. Everything I'm showing, I will write it before you, I will draw it before you, I'll practically do it before you. So this is a practical training for real time examples. Any questions from others? Okay, looks like no questions. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining day 1 class. The day 2 class also continues tomorrow, and request you guys to talk to my team and complete your enrollments. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Bye bye.